Welcome back to the FinStep Asia Podcast. Today I am with a friend of mine from my childhood. We've known each other since school, also did our engineering together, so over 25 years of friendship. Mr. Adarsh Narahari, who is the managing director of Primus as well as of Marzi. We are here in my hometown of Bangalore, seated in Adarsh's fantastic office. And we're going to be talking about longevity, talking about real estate, and the concept of living that is evolving in India and how Adarsh and Primus are leading that. So, Adarsh, welcome to the podcast. It's one of my first school friends to be on the podcast, or anybody I know for more than 20 years. So how's it? How are you doing?
Thank you, Musheer. Thank you for having me. At least on account of this, we get to
We
meet.
get to meet,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's
Been
all
a
the
few
old
years,
memories of
yeah.
college comes back, and all the good times we had. Yeah.
It's
So
been
it's
20,
nice to do this with you, though. It's
yeah.
it's a different avatar for both of us.
Correct. It's been 21 years since we finished our
Yeah, long time.
20 years actually since we finished our engineering.
Yeah,
June
2005. Yeah,
2005, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
So no profit more. So
absolutely.
Adarsh, tell us a bit about, you know, you were involved from your teenage years to even university with real estate with your dad and the other company, but Primus has been something that you've shaped. But I would love to know what got you into real estate, as in the interest, and what made you stay with that part, and then we'll get to Primus and longevity as we build through that.
Right. No, absolutely. Thank you again for having me here, Musheer. So, when I chose to do industrial engineering
Yeah,
with you in RV college, I was always fascinated by the idea of having an industry. For me, it seemed like the ultimate thing to do is to manufacture, build something, and stuff like that
yeah,
back then. And as you know, we have a family business in real estate. So eventually, I felt like, and since in the family business, we were more focused on the uh, land and the land aggregation piece of things. I felt if I take up real estate development as a career opportunity, I have some of the raw material. It may logically make sense to be a real estate developer. And that's how, although I studied industrial engineering, that's where the interest came, the dinner table
sure.
conversations in the family, people around you doing, big stuff, for lack of a better word. That's how I got into real estate because it seemed like the logical thing to do, which is what also made me do my master's in construction management
Yeah,
because I felt like that's what I wanted to do. And once I finished my studies in the UK, that's pretty much what I did. I came back and I started doing regular real estate, right? And while I did this, and it's nice to buy shiny things, make some money. The money part of it is good, but for me there was no satisfaction. And the reason that I started this entire thing of senior living and elder care is all because of my grandmother. Okay, that's my grandmother, by the way.
nice.
Let me show the
Show the
audience.
photo. Yeah,
That's me with my Ajji. Uh, so, like, I'm a South Indian, that, born, brought up here. My grandmom had 11 siblings, and the idea of success for a lot of South Indian families was to have the children go to the US.
yeah.
So, except me and my dad, the other 10 siblings of my grandmother, more or less, except for one, have children who, live in the
The
US.
overseas. Yeah,
And then every time my grandmom's sisters used to come home, they used to tell me in the local language, hey, my children are asking me to come to US and move into this retirement community. We have no interest to go to a cold country. We don't know anybody there. And the backstory again is, I was brought up by my grandparents. I don't know if you know this, but dad and mom started business very late,
yeah.
close to when my dad was 40. So they struggled for many years to, put things together. So I was brought up by my grandparents and more by my grandmother in particular. So I used to share everything with her, and I used to tell her that, listen, this is great, but if I go to a real estate project that I have finished, the feeling that I get is not of love and affection. It's more like a person who was here to make money,
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
right? And I didn't enjoy the process of this entire thing because the customer satisfaction was not truly there, and I didn't find joy and purpose.
sure.
And I used to share this with my grandmother, and then she gave me this idea. She called me one day. She said, "Put Papa." That's what she calls me. She called me, "Hey, Put Papa, Baili," which is loosely like,
Come
"Please
here.
come
Yeah,
here, baby," type of a thing. And then she said, "Hey, you keep whining about this real estate and you don't like it. Why don't you do something for my sisters?" So that's the first time
that's
somebody
that.
gave me
Yeah,
this idea And then I went back to my room and typed old age home America because I didn't know better either.
Yeah.
And then I realized, okay, this looks like something that I may enjoy doing. So I actually took a 2 month break, and I just got on a plane and lived in different retirement communities in the US for almost 2 months. I was there in the US for 30 days. I started off at Shell Point in Florida, went to Connecticut where all the retired investment bankers are, went to the Midwest, went to the West Coast, lived in a community that was run by Belmont where the retired Hollywood stars are there. And then I realized that it's a lifestyle solution.
Yeah.
I also felt America is not a model that India can ape, or there are challenges.
Yeah.
So I landed up in Japan. I spent 15 nights in Japan because high rise, small homes, traditional family value system. Then I went to Australia. So I spent like 2 months pretty much
Researching.
staying in retirement. I didn't stay a single night in a hotel room except for the days that I had to fly out of the airport. And then that's how I came back and started Primus. So yeah, I kind of owe it to her. It was an accident. I said I'll try to make you proud. That was my motivation, and it's now become a business many years later.
It's a way of keeping her
Yeah,
in you, right, and what
Yeah.
you do. And the two things I like what you spoke about, which is for a lot of a lot of our conversations on our podcast tend to be more startup, digital, and stuff like that. But fundamentally, we both kind of come from a families of businessmen, right, or businesswomen, business persons. Let's put it to be
Yeah.
as it were. And this is the entrepreneur, as we like to call it in Bangalore, or entrepreneur, is a more modern terminology. But building a business has been around for a while, and people have been building for centuries. But the two things I liked a lot was, one was um, satisfaction, like in work. What drives you to
Yeah.
go do is you need a motivation, and you found a motivation, and it came from something that you can identify with, or somebody close to you can identify with. Quite often people, when they're trying to solve problems in startup world, you get excited by a technology or a
Yeah.
business model, and you're like, oh, this is great, let's solve. But you don't know, you come up with a solution without a problem.
Yeah.
Right. And but whereas when you identify and you have a problem that you can connect with, then your motivations are different and how you approach it is different, because every solution you can know whether that will work or not and what are the pitfalls. That's one. The second is, which we don't see too many people doing or rushing into, is the POC, right? The research, actually going and the walk in that person's shoe kind of concept, right? So when you're building apps, etc., a lot of times you're having an assumption on how the user is going to be, and using some online data, a lot of which is relevant and not necessarily a wrong way to go about, but it doesn't necessarily have the same element. Like you went and spent 60 nights, right, in three different economies, environments, cultures. Like the US and Australia are developed economies, but very different lifestyles, and housing, etc., very different as well, right? And culturally as well. Whereas Japan is very, very traditional, very smaller spaces. So I think that experience, I think, must have been very important when you came back to kind of feel about, okay, what can be done and what cannot be done as well. Okay. So would love to hear more about what were key things you took away from that three visits, as it were.
Oh, absolutely. I think the first thing that I learned is that it's not a business of real estate, right?
Yeah.
People are under this assumption that a home for an elderly person is, the focus should be on the home.
Yeah.
But that's the last thing that we focus on, right? Because if you look at aging, there is a clear science to aging.
Yeah.
Right? If you notice in and around you, certain people get older faster than certain other people. You agree?
That's correct. Yeah.
Why? Have you ever thought?
Kind of have a sense. It's lifestyle, right? A lot of it's mental and physical, both ways. Yeah.
Absolutely true. So let me tell you what are the pillars of aging. And I'm sure a lot of you have read this book called Ikigai, which is based on the blue zones where people live longer. But what we are really caught up as Primus is on the health span of a person.
Mm-hmm.
Because the emotion that is greater than wealth, power, love, and money is agency and independence. And our job is to empower our elders to feel that way.
Sure.
Going back to the pillars of aging, right? So there are typically 4 pillars of aging. There is physical activity, there's mental stimulation, there is community, and there is purpose and passion. Research has proved that if a set of older folks have this, the chances that they live longer are far greater than people who don't have it.
Sure.
As Primus, we have added two other things to these 4 pillars. We have added nutrition and preventive health.
Mm.
Because when it comes to health, we are all very reactive, right? If you see how we all act as people who love our parents, our response to anything for our people that we love is to give them a nurse. But have we thought if that's the right solution for our elder? The nurse makes our parent dependent on them. There is no meaningful exchange. There is no uh, independence, rather that is dependence. So the chances that decline accelerates through a nurse is higher than reduces.
Correct.
So when we put the lens of prevention, and for example in Primus communities, we measure have a health score, and the health score is derived from a typical medical test diagnosis, physiotherapy test, and what we call psychosocial tests. So we would look at, okay, fine, what are the blood markers? What are the physiotherapy markers? How much weight does a person put on one leg versus another?
Mm-hmm.
How's their hip? How is their bone integrity? What's the mineral density? So we reduce falls through physiotherapy. And then we look at, okay, how much they interact with the community, how many activities do they
Mm-hmm.
participate in, a whole bunch of factors to give us a health score. And the job of our team is to actually improve this health score and make sure that we can find underlying conditions early.
Yeah.
So in our physical environments, we have a bunch of sensors that are built into the home, into the bed, into the walls, and we have tied up for a health ring,
Sure.
which continuously gives us data points to point on underlying disease.
Mm.
Right? What if I told you that knee replacement surgery was not needed in most of the cases? We're very happy to wait and then go pay 5 lakhs for a knee, but the 1,000 rupees for physiotherapy, we hesitate. Same thing with respect, and that leads to falls, which is worst, right? Same thing on anything. If you catch cancer in stage 1, you can give a 85-90% chance of full recovery. If you catch, you know that. The same thing with loss of memory. Just every disease, diabetes can be reversed, hypertension can be controlled. So most elders have a chronic condition, and if this is identified early and if it is actively managed, they will live longer on their feet on their own terms. That's the solution that we're providing, a place where people can live, make friends, live a stress-free life where everything happens at a touch of a button. The right type of food is provided, and preventive healthcare is a way of life. Let me give you a more easy example. Can you tell me a profession where people age the slowest? We both agree, right? Certain people age slower than the other. Tell me one profession where they die the last, they live the longest.
Fishermen, I don't know. Yeah.
Fishermen?
I'm thinking maybe
I don't
farmers.
have a farmers. I know the answer is no.
No. Okay.
They don't.
Um,
Any other guesses?
I don't know. I feel sometimes care workers tend to live longer for some reason as well.
I'll tell you an easy answer. Politicians.
Okay. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, agree. Look at anybody who's a politician, right? They don't die.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's keep politics out of the room. Let's look at it from aging. Are they physically active? Yeah. Are they mentally stimulated? Yeah. Do they have a high sense of purpose? Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Right? Are they surrounded by people? Yeah. Do they take care of their health and eat well? Yeah, yeah. So that's why they're living longer. Now let's compare that to a highly educated person who had a traditional retirement. And now after 65, this person is now watching TV and forwarding WhatsApp. Who do you think is going to enjoy a better health span? The politician or this other person?
The politician, of course. Yeah.
So that's what we all need to imbibe and ask the people that we love, right? The elders around us. We need to make sure that, hey, they are physically active, they're mentally occupied, they are surrounded by people, and they have something to do. If you have a traditional retirement and you have nothing to do, the chances that you will age faster are very, very high. And that's what we need to watch out for. And that's the solution that Primus and Marzi are providing. We are creating these physical spaces where we can give the pillars of aging to people, put power back in their own hands so that we can slow down aging. That's the key learning from all of my travel, that it's not a real estate business.
It's also that finding that target, right, in terms of what is your product, and I'm using that term, or a service loosely, and at times people that concept of user versus customer is also a key element we'll touch upon a little later. But I guess it's two things I looked at it, right? So one is the emotional part of it is very, very important, right? Often, when we were growing up, or in your 20s and 30s, if you don't have a kid in India and in the Asian world in general, it will be like, oh, your parents are getting old, you need to have a kid so that they can stay occupied. It's a very common term used by the aunties and uncles and the siblings of the grandparents. Right? Oh, they need somebody to play with, to keep
Yeah.
busy after they are retired, because it's just a question of, as we move towards more nuclear families, or the
Yeah.
kids aren't around the purpose of either professionally or in terms of many women being housewives, just based on the generation. This is not what used to happen, at least in our parents' generation to a certain extent. Then it becomes like, what next? Right now, that isolation, the empty nest syndrome. And
Yeah.
I've seen that with my mother. I've seen it with a lot of my uncles and aunts. And my dad has 10 siblings, my mom has 9, so 10 and 11. So, and different ages, right? So my oldest aunt is 84, 85, and the youngest is around 50. So they have the range. I have cousins who are in their 60s now. So I've seen that whole range of aging, and you see, as you rightly said, the ones that seem to be doing much better, even if they are 7, 10 years older than the others, are the ones who are more active,
Yeah.
despite having retired 15, 20 years ago, socially very active, doing volunteering, going, they prefer
Absolutely.
walking on their own or
Yeah.
driving themselves, like my aunt in the UK
Very
does
important.
that. Is very,
Things
very
like
important.
driving.
So
Yeah.
that term of agency, we don't use that term too much in general context in India, but I think that term agency is
Yeah.
very important. Is that ownership? I was working on an ideation of a concept which is based on this book I've read, which is called The 100-Year Life. And I was telling Priyanka, your colleague, about this. The two professors from the London Business School wrote this. Touches upon the economic model of how, in the 60s, for the OECD, the West in particular, the average age spans were in the late 60s, similar to what we are in India now. And so you earned for 40 years pension
Yeah.
savings with high interest rates compounded, 10 more years, you're fine, right? Whereas the Gen Z are going to live probably 80, 90 years. They'll
Absolutely.
need to work longer, need to break their careers. But a lot of that conversation is about twofold, right? In the West, you have a social security system. So you have this government kind of taking that burden, but retirement ages are being pushed further down because the governments can't
They can't afford
afford
to pay
much
them.
right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
In emerging economies, largely that social security system is very minimal, let's put it that way, for economic reasons and other reasons. So it just becomes a question of, there are the emotional elements, which are the most important element to keep our parents, our seniors healthy, etc. Then comes the other element, which is the cost of healthcare as people go over 60 with insurance, everything else, is very high,
Yeah.
right? And I see this on a daily basis in Hong Kong, where there are 90-year-olds, 95-year-olds, or maybe 100-year-olds who are, going to a restaurant or going wherever, being accompanied by their 65, 70-year-old child, right? Who themselves are in a certain age. Both are probably walking. Both maybe support. There's a helper, etc. So you have to also think, one of the concepts is not just, yes, it is a big emotional conversation, but it's also an economic conversation. I don't know if you've looked at it. I know that's not the
Absolutely.
pitch, but what are
No,
your
no.
thoughts on that part?
Uh, the data out there is loud and clear, right? As a globe, we are the replacement, the fertility
Yeah,
levels are dropping. The replacement levels are nowhere near where it needs to be.
maybe
If you
kind
look
of
at,
peaked
yeah,
replacement rate kind of story,
right?
right? Yeah.
So if you look at Japan, already the number of older people are greater than the number of younger
Mhm.
people.
Yeah.
Let me talk about India since we are an Indian company. By the year 2041, and that's not too far from
15
today,
years, yeah.
right? India will have the highest cohort of older people. So if you break up, and this is by the government's LASI study, anybody can Google it. And then what are the emerging economies doing? They're not doing anything about it because we are not ready for the healthcare burden that presents itself for this country. I hope action is taken earlier to find solutions around, and in my mind, healthcare and prevention of health has to be at home to
Yeah.
be able to solve this for a country like ours. It is impossible to build infrastructure for, I think India has 340 million elders by then. It has
Yeah.
160 million elders today. It'll probably have a double of that in the next 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
It's physically not possible to create the infrastructure. So
Correct.
what is the phygital solution that the country can provide for the people who depend on the government for healthcare? We are not catering to those people, but I think like Singapore has a ministry of aging.
Yeah.
Japan has a ministry of aging. So in India, it comes under social welfare, but they should start thinking about how these ministries globally are looking at this and trying to find solutions.
It's a regular conversation in Hong Kong. So Hong
Yeah.
Kong's average age is over 45, right?
Mhm.
So 50, more than 50% of the population is over
Yeah.
45, and there's a significant 20, 30% who are over 60,
So the way I
65
see it
years.
is only two options: keep your elders active for longer so that they can continue to
Yeah.
work, or find meaningful avenues to keep them stimulated and affordable healthcare in place. Like this is the only way that it can be solved.
I think it's two. It has to be a
Yeah,
both
yeah.
world, right? The concept of work has also evolved.
Of course, of course,
And in
of
this
course.
age of
Yeah.
AI, the skill set, I mean, are we in our mid 40s redundant for a lot of skill sets? We learned
You
what
never
we
know.
learned in our engineering was redundant in a few years' time itself.
Yeah.
But now it probably is, and juniors who are coming through or young people coming through are finding it more harder to fit in. And we know
Yeah.
these mass tech layoffs. Like I used to sell this to a lot of students, and whenever I'm doing lectures and courses, I would tell them, look, if you're doing technology, understanding technology, knowing how it works, that'll help you, maintain a career, and because tech is always going to be there. And now you're looking at developers who probably thought they had a career for life, and now just like, okay,
Yeah.
not the
Yeah.
same. Talking about technology, and this is one thing would love your thoughts on as well, is we are seeing this emergence of both Gen AI on one side with AI, on the other side is robots, right? In particular, humanoids and others. How a lot of what Primus does is very human touch, right? Besides the
Yes.
preventive health checks and diagnosis, etc., you do, which you obviously use your tools as well, but it's a very human touch, right? There are a lot of, as you said, in Japan, the challenge is so many old people, there are not enough service people, right? They're now needing to import uh, professionals or workers from overseas to fill in the gap. But one of the things I've thought about is like when my mom is at home, the biggest challenge for her, yes, there is the health story, but is isolation. We moved from
Yeah.
a house where she had a lot of neighbors, etc., to a place where we're on the third floor and she's kind of not speaking much to her neighbors, etc. Space is the same size, but it's just
Yeah.
a different environment. And so I'm thinking like one of the major growth areas for humanoids is going to be companion humanoids. Right? We talk about companionship from
Yeah.
AI girlfriends, boyfriends, whatever. But this, I don't know if you've thought of that part for Primus, and
So
also in India, it's a cost element to it, but does it also help to a certain extent because they can work 24/7, they can operate. They're a good way if you have the right camera setup. It's a monitoring way for somebody who's overseas, right? Knowing what's happening and also interacting.
So here's the mistake that most of us make as children, right? We are under this assumption that we need to solve for efficiency. We are under this assumption that we need monitoring and we need to be able to look into what our parents are doing. Have you asked yourself, or have we asked ourselves the question, what do our parents want? They don't want interference. They don't want you looking at their
Yeah.
house. You want to do that, right? And I think that's where the blind spot is. I'm actually on the other end of this conversation. I think the last industry that will be disrupted by humanoids and AI is going to be active senior living. Okay, again, I want to qualify this
Sure.
because I think assisted living, most of the Western world doesn't have a choice. It will move to some form of humanoid because nobody's going to be ready to take out a diaper and clean it for a person who needs to. As far as the active elders are concerned, and that's my customer base,
Sure.
the the thing that we are doubling down is their need for seeking relevance, right? Because these were people who did great things in their life. They've taken up a traditional retirement and today they want to feel useful again. So people, ecosystems and solutions that enable that is what will be successful, and a humanoid or a robot isn't going to be able to do that.
Okay.
So we, the team on the ground, the training that we give the team on the ground is going to be more crucial. I'll give you an example. My housekeeping team is measured by quality of conversation versus how fast or how well they clean a house.
Mm-hmm.
I would have random questions like, hey, does this A301, does this person lies all a Harpic? Name the grandchild. Tell me the favorite chocolate of the grandchild. Because my expectation is that information, which will enable you to build the relationship with my
Mm-hmm.
customer, which keeps my customer a resident happy. And we have our own unique training across the board for all of these things. The role of technology that I see is in making us efficient. It'll be
Okay.
facing me. How do I give guaranteed good services efficiently, back ended into us, How do I look at reports? How do I analyze through AI what may be underlying conditions? And then how do I give meaningful outcomes medically is what we will be facing us. Everything facing the customer, in my mind, will still be human for the active elder. The other role of technology that I see, and we have integrated some of it, is in making the physical space smart from the lens of health, right? So we would have an integration with an Alexa device that will tell you to take your pills at a certain time. We'll have a fall sensor in the wall that can tell if somebody fell down, and then it triggers an emergency protocol. We'll have a smart sensor in the toilet that as soon as you flush, it'll tell you, hey, is there UTI? Is the hydration level okay? Not okay. If it is not okay, it'll send me a thing to the nurse saying, hey, request this person to have a glass of water, or whatever is the outcome.
Sure.
There'll be smart mirrors. There'll be something under the mattress that would measure arrhythmic heartbeat, that would tell me some other underlying condition. There'll be something on the finger, maybe there'll be something on the hand. So I see technology playing a role in prevention in a large way going forward, and we are using some of this already. Many of the things I mentioned we are already doing, but I see a lot more integration of that. So the physical space becomes like a well thought out, well designed home that also acts as a preventive healthcare ecosystem. So when you have your medical center and staff along with the home, and this is seamless in terms of data, that's when we find underlying conditions early. That's when we give outcomes so people live longer.
Fair.
That is my view on how technology will play a role.
That's fair. I think there's going to be a mix based on environments as well, of where what is required, where people are.
But in assisted care and in most of the Western world, humans are. It will be very difficult to afford humans to give care,
which already is very expensive.
So I do see robots playing a large role there, but not in the active senior living piece.
So two things that I was thinking when you were speaking about the elements. Number one, and I'll come back to the other one right after, is this now becomes or is a very high human touch service and a product, right? When you're training, so first part is from a training perspective, how do you approach, because it's not necessarily natural to everybody or in the way we have been brought up in the general ecosystem, education system, professional system. Is a lot about KPIs, this very very much on those formal stuff. This is here, this is about, and most people not necessarily tuned to it. So how do you train that empathy in your stuff? How do you train that attention to detail, because it takes time? So how do you work on that?
So if let's say, what's your favorite hotel brand?
Favorite hotel, Mandarin Oriental, probably.
Okay, let's say Mandarin Oriental. Now they have a bunch of hotels around the world, right? But every Mandarin will give you a certain experience that you expect.
Sure.
And they have been able to replicate this across the ecosystem. So how we look at it is in a very similar way. It's
hospitality
just that,
kind of
approach. So the people that we take are typically from the background of hotels or of hospitals and facilities. So we take people from all these backgrounds, and then we add our layer of convenience and care, and then we add the layer of empathy, and we have a bunch of tests that we do before they let them into our community to understand how they would react under certain situations. And then we have a pre-handover team. So every new community that we open, this pre-handover team stays there with the new set of folks for 6 months, does the entire training, does the handover, and then keeps moving on. Okay. So that's how we are scaling it, and every aspect of our training is very different. The way my security is trained, I give you an example of my housekeeping stuff.
Yeah.
Again, if you look at the training to my medical team does not have a target. I don't work like hospitals.
Sure.
My job is to not take them and put them on a hospital bed that has a revenue target. My target is to keep them out of the hospital. Yeah. It's the exact opposite, which is why I will never have a hospital person sitting in my premise. Most elders or most children of elders come to me and say, which hospital do you have a tie-up with? I'm like, no, I don't. And I think it's very bad if you have a tie-up with a hospital, because your goals are misaligned. You should be asking that I don't want a hospital, but I want a high quality medical professional who will give me the right advice. That's what we keep.
Okay.
Yeah. Fair. So it's a different lens. Like I said, senior living, senior housing is not something that is yet understood fully in India.
Yeah.
It is mired in misconception until people come and experience it.
That's why we're here, to get more understanding. The second piece was, and actually you touched upon the scaling part. I was going to ask you that, but that pre-handover team kind of explains how you can do it. And if you're getting people from healthcare and hospitality, it kind of helps with the skill set. The second element is when you're integrating a lot of the digital, phygital technologies, monitoring, etc. Real estate in general is not a, let's say it's not very, it's not a cheap alternative, right? Owning homes, etc. In and Bangalore as a market
Yeah,
has also grown double, tripled in the last 10 years, at least doubled in the last 10 years. So how does, is this a market largely aligned for the mass affluent and the affluent of India, or how do you see this becoming more affordable over time? It doesn't have to be now, but
yeah,
how do you see this
right.
becoming more affordable, and the ownership models, right? You have ownership
That's correct.
versus renting. So would love to hear a bit more on the business model side of things.
Absolutely. So today, the cohort of people who actually have the most amount of wealth are the older people. They are just unwilling to part with it because they didn't see value in the solutions being
Mm.
provided to them up to now. The second thing is the it goes back to what they seek. Right? What they seek, like I told you, the highest level is agency and independence. So today, unfortunately or fortunately, a house has a certain raw material cost, the land, the building, government taxes.
Yeah.
And you'll be surprised to know that almost half of the total value of a house is going directly or indirectly to governments in the form of taxes, right? So whenever it becomes a priority for the government, and certain states have taken,
Mm-hmm.
initiative early, like Maharashtra, they've reduced stamp duty, they've reduced GST for elder care and for senior living. Haryana is coming up with a policy. So they are already looking at it that yes, India is like the rest of the world going to face some form of aging crisis. If we can house people in controlled environments, they will reduce the medical care expense and burden to the country at large.
Correct.
Therefore, it makes sense to provide stimulus to people like us.
Correct. Yeah.
That conversation is still very far away. But currently, what that means is yes, it is a solution for the upper middle class or the somewhat rich elder folks, but because most elders don't get a home loan, right? So elders are using their savings and buying with us. Our model typically is that anybody can own a home. The elder can own a home. The children of elder can own a home, but the occupant has to be above 55. We do both standalone senior living and we do multi-generation housing. So we pioneered this concept of multi-generation.
Mm-hmm.
So we started here in Bangalore, then we went to Chennai, then we went to Bombay, Calcutta, Pune, Hyderabad. We went to different cities, and as we went from south to north, this notion कि ये लोग वृद्धाश्रम बना रहे हैं, I mean they're doing an
Yeah.
old age home, started getting louder, right? And then we had a bunch of elders and the children tell us, hey, you know what? We like to live in the same society but not under the same house.
Also.
So it naturally evolved to becoming multi-generation. So we started to do multiple towers, or we plugged ourselves into larger projects where there
Mm-hmm.
were say 10 towers, and one tower became senior living.
Senior living.
So the parents and in-laws stay here, the children and the grandchildren stay here. Everybody gets their space. These people get to have new friends,
Yeah.
convenience, community, yada yada yada. These guys get to be nearby, and we curate grandparent, grandkid activities, children, parents activities, parents, in-laws activities.
Yeah.
So our activities layer became so much more broad, and it became a very India solution, because in India, people want to live near their children,
Yeah.
but not necessarily under the same roof.
Yeah.
And you'd be surprised to know that what do you think is the nuclearization rate in India today?
I don't know, 50, 40%.
Right? That's what you would think. India is already 60% nuclear at an India level. Urban India is probably
Much higher.
76% nuclear.
Wow. Okay.
So nuclear families aren't going away. Neither is the love for parents going away. So this is a intersection of that is multi-generation housing, which is what we're also doing.
Also been a lot of urban migration, if you want to call it
Yeah,
immigration, immigration within the country, and then when the parents come in, it's the same story, right? Like if the children are away working, they're again isolated the whole day kind
Yeah,
of story,
and
and
I'm sure you know
yeah,
that the number one reason for early mortality in elders is loneliness. It's
yeah,
not cardiac
correct,
disease, or the second one is falls. So how do you take away loneliness? How do you reduce falls? This is the whole ecosystem that we are providing. See, through physiotherapy, we reduce falls, not by saying I'll put anti-skid tile and I'll put a grab bar.
yeah,
So anybody can do that.
correct,
Right?
yeah.
Similarly, loneliness is taken away by creating a community where people. So the philosophy is the house, the physical house is just a bedroom. The common area is a living, dining.
I don't know if you have conceptualized this, and this is something that's come up now in my head. Um, so a lot of the folks probably are post retirement, right?
Right.
Or nearing retirement. The thinking that I got from the 100 Year Life was on two front. One was in the US and in the West, you do like the boomer generation, as they're called, own 40-50% of the wealth. There's a huge wealth transfer that's going to take place. But secondly, a lot of them are very active and professionally very capable. We spoke about a couple of leaders here, but Warren Buffett and all the others, in the 90s, 80s, very leading large organizations. Rupert Murdoch, for that example, many others.
Mr. Suta, yeah.
So yeah, so
Yeah.
quite a few very, even Mr. Ratan Tata for a
of
lot
course.
was very actively involved. Premji, all of this
Yeah.
stuff. So are you looking at ways of helping enterprise? Because you also had, if you think about Legit Papad and a lot of these were community based, or women, some of them very elderly as well. But have you given that a thought, or what are your thoughts on
So
enabling
what?
enterprises or enterprising people alongside
So
the
it's
living?
not, we get carried away with this notion of wealth, power, and money. What I am solving for is, like I told you, reducing aging, increasing health span,
Yeah.
giving independence and agency.
Sure.
That is my problem statement. I can solve it through many ways, right? We get caught up because the world likes to talk about rich people and money. But passion and purpose has nothing to do with wealth.
Correct.
We have a gentleman called Mr. Srinivas, who is now he's 93. He was part of a community from the time he was 85. Um, and he came in at 85 and he said, Adarsh, I want to learn French. That was his passion. He wants to learn French. And within a period of 24 months, he took up online. We helped him get to online classes. We put him on to a teacher. And after 2 years, he started teaching French. So today, he's teaching French online and offline. Right? So how is that any different from a Mr. Tata or somebody, larger than life like that? Ultimately, they are looking at their passion and purpose.
Correct.
That's my job.
Yeah.
And we are seeing that happen in many ways. So somebody wants to volunteer in a government school, somebody wants to be part of some philanthropic activities, somebody wants to take up dance again, somebody wants to teach mathematics.
Yeah.
So we are enabling all of this.
Or mentor budding entrepreneurs or business people or professionals.
They want to mentor kids.
Yeah.
So our job is to rekindle purpose, right? And our job is to help people be relevant again. And whatever that means to them, we are here to enable. We are not here to decide that you need to make money or anything like that. Right. If they have a skill that they can exchange for money, we are happy to put that conduit to. So we have re-employment tie-ups.
Okay. Yeah.
So if there's a person who was, for example, a retired forest officer, and today the forest office doesn't have experienced officers, they have these new kids. Okay, you come and consult for 2 hours a week or whatever that means, and we are enabling that. Yeah. So it happens across the spectrum.
This is something that's what I was alluding to.
Yeah,
right?
That's what I realized.
And how are you seeing on the other side, from the industry perspective, when you're engaging with forest department or some of the other enterprises?
So people want elders in a limited fashion for their experience. But because unemployment is a larger problem here, at the moment, it's just easier to get somebody at a cheaper price. So very specific skill sets that are missing, people are seeking out elders who have those.
Perfect. I want to switch gears, talk a little bit. This has been great, and I love the concept, and I think it's definitely something. It is not, as we said, with ashrams and old age homes, but it is about living. And I've been, and I think it's a very high value, and it's holistic living for longevity. The other part I want to touch upon in switching gears is Marzi, right? I don't know much about Marzi as well, so would love to hear what's Marzi, how did it come about, and what's happening with it now.
So Primus, like I told you, it was an accidental business. I thought I'll make my grandmother proud. We struggled for many years because people thought that, okay, who's going to come and buy an old age home? Yeah. And then after COVID and after people understood what the services are, today it's becoming mainstream. Sure. Right? And a lot of people are interested to do what we're doing. So in this journey, we have always looked at solutioning for living of elders within a physical space that we are building. As we grew this business, tons of elders came to us who visited us. They said, we love everything, but I'm not going to leave my house. I'm very attached to my house. I built this brick by brick. Everybody has a story around their house, right? It's a very emotional subject, a home. And they said, you give us everything you're giving here, but in our house. So that got me thinking, okay, fine. We have solved for trust in some way in a certain cohort of people because we take care of them within our community. Sure. How do I give this philosophy of blue zone and increase health span in their own homes. So that's how we said we will. And then I realized that we can't solve for one thing. Today, if you look at an elder and you look at children of elders and you look at the ecosystem of where they spend their money, they're going to one person for travel, they're going to one person for wealth, they're going to one person for legal advice, they're going to one person for fixing things, they're going to one person for whatever else. And even if they have to book a cab, they're calling their kid may be in Hong Kong and they're booking Uber sitting in Hong Kong for their parent in Bangalore. Just
Sure, fair
it may not be your particular case, but I know of many cases like
very true. It
right?
does happen from time to time. Yeah.
So there was an unnecessary transactional relationship taking a toll on the emotional value of parents and children. More than that, every single transaction of an elder didn't have trust and it was a new transaction. There was no ecosystem solution provider saying I will call one number or one person for everything that I need.
Like a concierge in some senses.
Concierge is again an overused word. I would refrain from that. I think of Marzi as an active aging platform for elders to enable agency. So if for people in their own homes who don't want to come and live in Primus, we are a one-stop shop. So we do travel for elders, we do home improvement of existing homes to make them safe from the lens of technology and care. We do online, offline events. We have neighborhood clubs. We do companion and concierge services. We do events. And stuff like that. So the basic idea goes back to my philosophy: increase health span, reduce age. So we're doing this now through Marzi, and we are a technology platform backed by services.
And this is an app?
It is going to be an app. It's not yet an app. Eventually, it will be an app. But we are more of a service company. Right? So you call us, we deliver a whole bunch of solutions for you in the comfort of your own house.
And is it subscription based? Is it one-time use? How are you planning?
So it's we're in early days. We were lucky to be backed also by General Catalyst, who's probably the world's largest healthcare investor. We're also lucky to be backed by Nikhil and Nitin Kamath, because both of these people are strong believers in impact businesses, and they're also strong believers that a holistic solution is needed for the elderly in developing countries like India. And that's what we're out to say. Right now, we're doing a bunch of things on a pay-per-use basis. So you can go for a holiday with us, you pay for a holiday. It's reimagined for our customers, right? So you'll have certain timings which are slow-paced. It's more based on who you go with, becoming friends with them, rather than I'm going to this destination to tick a box saying that I visited this country and I saw the top 4 things. Our philosophy of travel is very different. Same way, our lens of preventive health is very different. We look at DNA-based personal medicine, as opposed to spray and pray, which is symptomatic treatment. We don't do that. In home improvement, we look at, like I told you, integrating technology into the home to again go back to prevention. We are not coming and saying we'll make your flooring safe and we'll put an anti-skid tile or a grab handle. We're not interested. I mean, we'll do that too, but the solution is more holistic. Same way, we want you to have friends. You shared your own example about your mother. So if she was a Marzi elder with us, we try to link her up with 10 other people who think and feel like her, so that she has a reason to leave the house or to engage even within a house with people who share her value system, right? So that's what we're enabling.
That's nice, and I'm wishing you great success with that. And you have great backers, especially the Kamaths have been talking a lot about longevity and health in particular. And I want to end with moving away from business conversations to your personal conversation, right? Growing up, you weren't necessarily the sporty person. You're not fat or otherwise. You're fairly fine, but you're not necessarily the sporty guy. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. Right?
Not a sporty guy.
Not too much into it, but now you have this passion for cycling. You've been doing that in Bangalore, going for trips 40, 50 kilometers out or more than that. And now you recently did a trip in Europe as well. So how did this passion come about, and how easy is it to be a cycling enthusiast in a place like India, in Bangalore, where our infrastructure is still catching up in many senses, not necessarily as safe for cyclists. So yeah.
So it's I don't know, it's a midlife response for lack of a better word. But when COVID happened and we were all cooped up indoors, I really wanted to get out. While I wouldn't classify myself as sporty, but I would always believe I'm adventurous. I always like to try new things. So I just got on a cycle. Some friends said, let's go for for a cycle
Cycle.
ride, and I really enjoyed it. It was, for me, it was meditative.
It is, yeah.
And then it became a daily thing in COVID, that, and Bangalore roads are actually beautiful and actually
Streets
green
are
when there are no
amazing, yeah.
cars and noisy.
Especially where you live,
Yeah.
right? Jayanagar
Yeah.
is great.
Then we started doing these rides. It started off as 10, 20, and then it became 100 kilometers and more. And then I really enjoyed it. So it's something that I do every year. I have an annual ritual. I go away to some country, cycle like 500-600 kilometers at a stretch. Typically, I look at climbing a few mountains in the process. And yeah, I've been lucky to be able to do that and continue to do that. So I find it great. But unfortunately, Bangalore is not a good place to cycle when there is no, when the roads are not shut.
Yeah.
So I think it will take some time.
Also, the rain, right, gets very slippery and muddy.
Yeah, it's more about people's sensitivity to cyclists. I wish it was better. So it's not very safe, in my view, to ride in Bangalore.
I think we'll get there eventually.
Yeah, but we'll get there when we have dedicated tracks and when we have more cyclists and educated, motorists on the streets.
Or you start off with outside of Bangalore, whatever that is now.
Yeah, most of the cyclists here also
outskirts,
kind of outskirts.
Yeah.
But it's a great
way of
sport, and
that's
I'm not professional by any stretch of the imagination. It's just for a way for me to unwind.
That's what I was gonna say. It also must be, having more than a physical part of it's also a passion that keeps you keeps your mind away or refreshes you from the environment.
It's a beautiful reset. Guys, one last message from me. If you have elders in your house, parents, people that you love, who are older, just ask yourself, hey, are they physically active? Are they mentally stimulated? Do they have people around them? Are they looking at their health from the lens of prevention? Are they having the right nutrition? And if you find the answers to some of this to be no, see how you can enable that. See how you can make sure that they start somewhere small. Okay, start with yoga, go for a walk. Okay, if you see that they're more cooped up indoors, maybe you start them with some online companionship and then you move them to an offline one. And irrespective, you can always get in touch with our team. We can guide you on how you can help your own elders to age slower, because that's our larger goal, and that's the purpose that we stand for. So please think about it, and also make sure that the physical space that they're in is safe for them, because we all act too late. We wait for a fall, and then once people fall down, life is never the same. So hope that we can act there. And we can really love our elders and our parents in this fashion. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. And click like, subscribe if you already aren't, and stay tuned for more such conversations.